You are throwing money into the feed bin every single week, and your hens are still laying like it is the middle of winter. Here is what the feed industry does not want you to figure out on your own. And they are counting on you never connecting the dots. A handful of dried beans sitting in your pantry right now can be turned into a protein-packed superfood for your flock in 72 hours. No soil, no grow lights, no special equipment, and it costs practically nothing to get a full rotation running. Most backyard chicken keepers have no idea this option even exists, and that gap in knowledge is costing them real money every month. They keep buying bag after bag of commercial layer feed at $22, $28, sometimes $35 a bag, with prices still climbing. The feed bill goes up every season, while the egg basket stays half empty, and nobody at the feed store mentions why. What if there is a method so old, so simple, and so proven that it boosts egg production and cuts feed costs at the same time? By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to grow fresh bean sprouts for your laying hens in 3 days flat. Step by step, no guesswork involved, and number 5 on this list is the one that surprised me the most when the results came in. Let's talk about what is really happening with feed costs right now, because the numbers are worse than most people want to admit. A backyard flock of 10 hens goes through roughly 80 to 100 pounds of commercial feed every single month without fail. At today's prices, that runs $40 to $70 a month, depending on your location. That is $500 to $840 a year just to keep them fed. And here is what makes that number genuinely frustrating. Half the nutrition in that commercial feed is filler material. Corn, soy byproducts, and synthetic vitamins that hens can barely absorb make up the bulk of what fills those expensive bags. Crack open an egg from the grocery store and compare the yolk to one from a well-fed pasture hen, and the difference is immediate. That pale yellow grocery store yolk versus the deep orange yolk from a properly nourished hen tells you exactly what is missing. The color difference is not cosmetic. It represents a measurable gap in the nutritional density of the egg itself. Beta-carotene, omega-3 fatty acids, vitamins A and E, all of these are dramatically higher in eggs from hens eating real food. Maybe you have already tried supplementing with kitchen scraps, or mealworms at 12 East a bag, or even fermenting the commercial feed. Those are all decent moves in the right direction, but none of them solve the core problem your flock is actually facing. Hens need fresh, living, enzyme-rich nutrition to lay at their full biological potential, and dried processed feed simply cannot deliver that. Commercial feed sits in a warehouse, then on a truck, then on a store shelf for weeks or months before reaching the feed bin. Every day that feed sits in storage, the living enzymes degrade and the bioavailability of the nutrients drops further. By the time a hen eats that pellet, she's getting a fraction of the nutrition value it started with when it left the processing plant. The feed companies know this, and they compensate by spraying synthetic vitamins on during processing, which hens absorb poorly. They know that fresh sprouted nutrition outperforms dry processed feed in almost every measurable category of poultry health. More bioavailable protein, more active vitamins, higher enzyme activity, better gut microbiome health, and noticeably better eggs. But fresh living food cannot sit on a shelf for 6 months and cannot be bagged and shipped across a continent at industrial scale. So the information about sprouting never makes it onto the back of any feed bag, because it would cut into the repeat purchase cycle. Here is the connection the industry hopes backyard farmers never make. Sprouting for livestock is not a new idea at all. This is one of the oldest feeding practices in the entire recorded history of farming, predating commercial feed mills by centuries. Farmers across Europe, Asia, and early America sprouted grains and legumes as a standard part of seasonal animal management. It was not considered optional or special. It was simply what you did when fresh pasture was unavailable and animals still needed nutrition. During the long winter months when pasture dried up and green plants disappeared, farmers soaked barley, wheat, oats, and beans indoors. They called it green fodder, and they grew it in containers near the hearth where temperatures stayed warm enough for germination. That green fodder kept livestock healthy, productive, and reproductively viable when everything outside was frozen and dead. There is a specific reason your great-grandmother's hens laid consistently through winter, And most modern backyard flocks do not. She was feeding living food with active enzymes and available nutrients, and the hens responded the way biology intended them to. Modern nutritional science has now confirmed in controlled studies what those old farmers knew through generations of direct observation. Research demonstrates that sprouting increases protein availability in legumes by up to 20% compared to the identical dried form. Vitamin content, especially vitamins A, C, and E, can increase by 300 to 500% in just 3 to 5 days of sprouting alone. Enzyme activity in sprouted seeds increases dramatically as the seed awakens from dormancy and begins active biological processes. Anti-nutritional factors, like phytic acid that physically block mineral absorption in the gut, drop by as much as 60% through sprouting. Phytic acid binds to zinc, iron, calcium, and magnesium in the digestive tract and carries them out before absorption can happen. Reducing phytic acid by 60% through sprouting means those minerals actually reach the bloodstream and support egg production. This is not folklore passed down without evidence. It is measurable, repeatable, peer-reviewed biology confirmed in multiple studies. You will not find any of this information printed on the back of a commercial feed bag because it does not serve the business model. The commercial poultry industry moved away from sprouted feeds precisely because freshness cannot be industrialized or standardized. You cannot mass-produce something that needs to be grown fresh every 3 days and still make the logistics numbers work. They replaced living food with synthetic vitamin sprays and processed protein meals. Cheaper for them, significantly worse for your hens. The good news is, you can bring this practice back to your own operation today with almost zero upfront investment required. Sprout number 1 is mung beans, the fastest, most foolproof starting point for anyone new to sprouting for their flock. These small green legumes have been cultivated and sprouted for food and animal feed across Asia for thousands of years. Soak 1 cup of dried mung beans in a clean mason jar filled with cool water overnight, about 8 to 12 hours total. Drain the soaking water completely in the morning. That water contains leached compounds you do not want the hens consuming. Rinse the beans thoroughly with fresh, cool water, drain completely again, and prop the jar at an angle to allow airflow. Repeat that rinse and drain cycle every morning and every evening without skipping. Consistency is everything with sprouting. In 48 to 72 hours, the jar will be full of fresh, crunchy white sprouts packed with protein, live enzymes, and available vitamins. Mung beans transition from a hard-dried pellet to a living sprout delivering real nutrition with almost no effort on your part. The protein content shifts from around 24% in dried form to a significantly more bioavailable form hens can digest and use for eggs. The sprouting process also produces vitamin C, which is absent in dried mung beans. Hens under stress benefit from that addition. A 1-pound bag of dried mung beans costs about $2 to $3 at most grocery stores or bulk food sections. That single bag produces roughly 5 to 6 pounds of fresh sprouts once the seeds have fully absorbed water and grown out. The volume expansion alone makes the cost per serving calculation remarkably favorable compared to any commercial supplement. Hens respond to mung bean sprouts immediately and enthusiastically. The second the jar opens, the yard becomes a sprint competition. Scatter them on the ground rather than dumping in a bowl to encourage natural foraging behavior that keeps the flock active. Sprout number 2 is lentils, the budget champion that produces maximum nutritional volume for the absolute minimum cost. Brown lentils, green lentils, red lentils, all 3 varieties sprout reliably, and all 3 deliver excellent results for laying hens. A standard 1-pound bag of lentils runs about $1.50 to $2 at any grocery store, and often even less when bought in bulk quantities. They sprout faster than almost any other legume, with visible germination beginning in as little as 24 hours under good conditions. No specialized container is required. A clean colander with a damp cloth draped over the top works perfectly for air circulation. Lentils run roughly 25% protein in dried form, and that protein becomes significantly more digestible after the sprouting process completes. Sprouting breaks down the complex starches in lentils into simpler sugars that the digestive system can absorb almost immediately. Faster absorption means more energy converting directly toward egg production, rather than going toward the digestion process itself. 1 cup of dry lentils consistently produces about 3 cups of fresh sprouts ready to feed in under 2 days. Run 3 or 4 jars on a rotation, staggered by 1 day each, and a fresh batch is available every single morning automatically. The first visible result from consistent lentil sprouting tends to be yolk color, shifting to a deeper orange within the first week. Egg count typically follows within 2 to 3 weeks of consistent supplementation alongside the regular feeding routine. Red lentils sprout slightly faster and have a milder flavor that some flocks prefer during the early adjustment period. Green and brown lentils tend to produce slightly more volume per cup and hold their sprout structure a bit longer after harvest. Either variety works. The key variable is consistency of rinsing, rather than which specific lentil type gets chosen. Sprout number 3 is black oil sunflower seeds, and most backyard chicken keepers do not realize these can be sprouted at all. Most people already know Boss as a treat that hens love, but the nutritional profile shifts dramatically when sprouting is added. Black oil sunflower seeds contain about 15% protein and significant healthy fat content in their standard dried form. When sprouted for 3 days, those proteins become more bioavailable and enzymes that were locked behind the shell become active. The fat content in Boss is particularly valuable for hens during winter months or during heavy molt when energy demands spike. Feather regrowth after molt consumes significant protein and fat reserves. Sprouted Boss supports that process efficiently. During winter, when daylight hours shorten and laying slows, the concentrated fat in sprouted Boss helps maintain body condition. To sprout them, soak a cup overnight in water, drain completely, then spread in a single layer on a shallow tray or plate. Rinse gently twice daily by running cool water over the tray and tilting to drain. Avoid letting them sit in pooled water. By day 3, look for small white or pale green tails emerging through the shell. That is the peak window for feeding. At that exact sprout stage, enzyme activity is at its highest, and the anti-nutritional factors present in raw seeds are at their lowest. Do not wait for them to grow into seedlings. The sprout stage is the target, not the plant stage that comes after. Feed approximately 1 tablespoon of sprouted Boss per hen per day. The rich fat content means a small amount goes a long way. Treat sprouted Boss as a concentrated supplement within the broader rotation rather than as a primary feed replacement. Hens that receive sprouted Boss consistently through winter tend to maintain better feather condition and more stable laying rates. Sprout number 4 is wheat berries, the traditional green fodder that farmers have relied on for livestock through winter for centuries. Wheat berries are simply whole unprocessed wheat kernels with the outer bran layer intact. Nothing fancy, nothing modified. They are widely available at farm supply stores, health food stores, and online in bulk quantities at very reasonable prices. A 25-pound bag typically costs $15 to $20 and contains enough material to supplement a flock of 10 to 12 hens for well over a month. That cost per day figure makes wheat berries one of the most economical items on this entire list when bought in standard bag sizes. For the full fodder approach, spread soaked wheat berries in a shallow tray with drainage holes and water lightly twice daily. In 5 to 7 days, a dense mat of green grass-like fodder develops that hens will strip clean with genuine enthusiasm. For the quicker 3-day sprout method, use a jar with the same soak-rinse-drain cycle as the other legumes on this list. At the 3-day stage, vitamin E content has already increased by over 300% compared to the identical dried berry. B vitamin content rises significantly as well, particularly thiamine and riboflavin, which support metabolism and egg production. The enzyme activity that develops in those first 72 hours helps hens extract nutrition more efficiently from everything else they eat. Hens will consume every part of the wheat berry sprout, the green blade, the white root mass, and any remaining grain kernel. Absolutely nothing goes to waste from a wheat berry batch, which matters when calculating the actual cost per nutritional unit. Scatter handfuls across the ground in the morning, and the flock will spend 30 to 45 minutes actively foraging through the material. That extended foraging time provides behavioral enrichment alongside nutrition. 2 benefits from 1 inexpensive input. Sprout number 5 is dried peas. And this is genuinely the one that produced the most surprising results when first tested. Dried green or yellow split peas sit quietly on grocery store shelves as one of the most overlooked protein sources in poultry nutrition. Dried peas contain 23 to 25% protein in their standard form, a protein density that rivals more expensive specialty feeds. But the protein story becomes even more compelling after just 2 to 3 days in a sprouting jar on the kitchen counter. The amino acid profile of peas improves measurably through sprouting, with particular gains in 2 amino acids that matter most. Methionine and lysine are both absolutely critical for egg production, and both become significantly more available after sprouting. Methionine is involved in feather growth, liver function, and the protein synthesis pathways that directly support laying. Lysine supports growth, tissue repair, and the metabolic processes that allow a hen to convert feed into consistent egg output. Deficiency in either amino acid is one of the most common hidden causes of underperformance in backyard laying flocks. Commercial layer feeds compensate by adding synthetic versions of both, but hens absorb the natural sprouted forms far more efficiently. Soak dried peas overnight in cool water, drain completely in the morning, then rinse twice daily at roughly 12-hour intervals. By day 3, the peas will show short white root tails and carry a clean, slightly sweet smell that signals peak readiness. Feed immediately at that stage. Do not wait for the tails to grow longer, because nutritional density peaks early in the process. Hens devour sprouted peas without hesitation, and the bowl will be empty before you walk back through the gate. A 5-pound bag of dried peas runs $4 to $6 at most grocery stores and produces 12 to 15 pounds of finished sprouts. That cost-to-volume ratio makes split peas one of the best investments on this list for flocks of any size. Sprout number 6 is fenugreek seeds, and this is the one almost nobody in the backyard chicken community is talking about yet. Fenugreek has been used intentionally in traditional farming communities across India and the Middle East for well over 1,000 years. Historical farming records from multiple cultures document the use of fenugreek specifically as a tonic for poultry and dairy animals. Farmers who used it consistently observed that hens laid more frequently, produced noticeably stronger shells, and held better body condition. They also noted that hens receiving fenugreek maintained productive laying through stressful periods like heat, cold, and seasonal transitions. Modern nutritional research has now isolated the specific compounds responsible for those observed effects across generations of use. Fenugreek contains steroidal saponins that support hormonal balance in laying hens during periods of physiological stress. Galactomannan fiber, another compound unique to fenugreek, feeds beneficial gut bacteria and improves overall digestive efficiency. A healthier gut microbiome means every other food item the hen eats gets processed more completely and delivers more usable nutrition. That multiplier effect on total diet efficiency is what separates fenugreek from most other sprouts that offer only direct nutrition. Soak fenugreek seeds for 6 to 8 hours in cool water. They absorb moisture faster than most legumes due to their small size. Drain completely and rinse twice daily, keeping them in a well-ventilated container that allows consistent airflow around the seeds. In 2 to 3 days, short white root tails will appear, and the batch will carry a mild, warm aroma that signals it is ready. Feed at that exact stage. Do not oversprout fenugreek because bitterness increases as the seedling develops past the sprout point. Fenugreek seeds are available at health food stores, Indian grocery stores, and online suppliers at $3 to $5 per pound. A small daily amount per hen is sufficient. Think of fenugreek as a targeted supplement within a broader sprouting rotation. Shell quality improvements from consistent fenugreek use tend to become noticeable within 2 to 3 weeks of regular feeding. Adding fenugreek to a rotation that already includes mung beans and lentils rounds out the nutritional profile significantly. Sprout number 7 is alfalfa seeds, and a genuine argument can be made that this is the single most nutritionally complete option available. Alfalfa is a legume that has been cultivated specifically for livestock nutrition for over 2,000 years across multiple agricultural civilizations. The name alfalfa comes from an Arabic phrase meaning "father of all foods," a name that reflects how highly farmers valued it historically. Alfalfa sprouts contain vitamins A, B1, B2, B6, B12, C, D, E, and K. A vitamin profile broader than almost any single other sprout. That range of fat-soluble and water-soluble vitamins covers nutritional gaps that tend to develop in flocks eating primarily dried feed. Vitamin A supports immune function and reproductive health, both directly relevant to consistent, quality egg production in laying hens. Vitamin E acts as an antioxidant that protects cell membranes from oxidative stress, which increases during heavy laying periods. Vitamin K supports blood clotting and bone metabolism, both important for hens whose calcium requirements run extremely high. Alfalfa sprouts also deliver calcium, iron, magnesium, and phosphorus in organically chelated forms that absorb more readily than synthetics. Calcium bioavailability matters enormously for laying hens whose shells require a significant calcium draw from the bloodstream daily. Protein content runs 18 to 20% once sprouted, with a strong amino acid profile that complements the profiles of other sprouts in rotation. Alfalfa seeds are very small compared to beans and lentils, so a single tablespoon of seeds produces a surprisingly large volume of sprouts. Use a wide-mouthed jar with a mesh sprouting lid to allow drainage and airflow without the seeds escaping during rinsing. Rinse gently twice daily and keep the jar away from direct sunlight. Alfalfa sprouts develop bitterness quickly if exposed to heat. A 1-pound bag of alfalfa sprouting seeds costs $8 to $12, but lasts for months because so little is needed per feeding session. On a per-serving cost basis, alfalfa delivers one of the widest nutritional profiles available at one of the lowest ongoing costs. The most effective delivery method is blending alfalfa sprouts with 1 or 2 other items from this list into a combined mix. Alfalfa paired with lentils and mung beans creates a nutritional blend that covers nearly every gap found in standard layer feed. That 3-sprout mix has become the standard daily blend after 2 years of testing different combinations with real flocks. About 2 years ago, a flock of 14 hens hit a production wall that nothing in the standard playbook seemed able to fix. 5 to 6 eggs a day from birds that should have been consistently delivering 10 or 11, and the feed bill was still climbing. Oyster shell in the feed, different premium feed brands, extra lighting on a timer in the coop through the short winter days. Everything that gets recommended in forums and videos got tried, and none of it moved the production numbers in any meaningful way. The feed bill had reached $65 a month and was still creeping upward, while the hens continued underperforming without explanation. Then came across an old homesteading forum, the kind where the usernames are all from the early 2000s, and the threads go on for pages. Someone in his 70s was describing in careful detail how his grandmother started every single morning by sprouting beans for her hens. He wrote that she never purchased a bag of commercial feed in her entire farming life, and her hens laid reliably through every season. There was a bag of brown lentils already sitting in the pantry, left over from a soup recipe that never actually got made. Trying it cost nothing beyond 5 minutes of time, and whatever water ran through the colander over 3 days of rinsing. Soaked a cup overnight, rinsed twice daily for 3 days, and fed the full batch to the flock on the morning of day 4. The hens went after those sprouts with a level of enthusiasm that was immediately striking, pushing each other aside to get more. That reaction alone suggested something real was happening. Hens eating commercial pellets every day do not respond that way to pellets. Within 10 days, the first visible result appeared in the egg basket. Yolk color, shifting noticeably toward a deeper, richer orange. That color change is not random. It reflects beta-carotene and xanthophyll content increasing as nutrition quality improves. By the end of week 3, 8 to 9 eggs were arriving daily from those same 14 hens, a jump of roughly 50% in 3 weeks. Mung beans joined the lentil rotation the following week, dried peas the week after, and fenugreek came into the mix a month later. The feed bill dropped to $40 a month because sprouts were replacing approximately a third of total commercial feed consumption. 2 years have passed since that first batch of lentils went into a mason jar. Not one day has gone by without sprouts running. The frustration from those early days was real. Something this effective and this affordable had been available the entire time. No feed company was ever going to put that information on a bag label because there is no margin in a jar of water and dried lentils. Before rushing to the pantry and soaking everything in sight, here are the specific mistakes worth understanding before starting. Mistake 1 is not rinsing frequently enough. This is the single most common reason people try sprouting once and give up on it. If sprouts do not receive thorough rinsing at least twice every 24 hours, mold establishes itself within the batch very quickly. Moldy sprouts are not just a wasted batch. They are genuinely dangerous to the birds that eat them. Mold on improperly rinsed sprouts produces mycotoxins, toxic compounds that accumulate in liver tissue and disrupt organ function. Mycotoxin exposure suppresses the immune system, damages reproductive tissue, and can reduce egg production for weeks after exposure. Rinse every morning and every evening on a consistent schedule. If any fuzzy growth or sour odor appears, discard the entire batch. Do not try to rinse the mold away and salvage the batch. Once mycotoxins are present in a batch, the whole thing needs to go. Mistake 2 is feeding too large a volume too quickly when first introducing sprouts to a flock that has been eating dry feed. Sprouts represent a significant change in the moisture content, fiber profile, and active enzyme load entering the digestive tract. A sudden large serving can cause loose droppings, crop issues, and digestive upset in birds not yet adjusted to live food. Start with 1 tablespoon per hen per day for the first full week. This allows the gut microbiome time to adjust gradually. Increase the daily serving slowly over 2 to 3 weeks until sprouts represent 20 to 30% of the total daily diet. Building up slowly protects the hens and gives you time to observe how the flock responds before scaling the routine further. Mistake 3 is using old or chemically treated seeds that will not germinate reliably regardless of how careful the method is. Some commercially sold dried beans have been treated with fungicide coatings or irradiated for shelf life extension purposes. Treated or irradiated seeds either fail to sprout entirely or produce poor weak sprouts with compromised nutritional value. Always purchase organic or specifically labeled sprouting grade seeds for use with your flock. The quality difference is real. Check the production date printed on every bag before purchasing. Older seed stock has progressively lower germination rates. If less than 70% of seeds show visible germination after 48 hours in good conditions, the seed stock is too old to use effectively. Switch to a supplier with reliably fresh stock, and the germination rate issue will resolve itself on the first fresh batch. Mistake 4 is placing sprouting jars in direct sunlight because it seems intuitive that seeds growing toward light would benefit. At the sprout stage, meaning the first 3 days of germination, seeds do not require or benefit from light exposure. Direct sunlight heats the glass jar significantly, which raises the internal temperature of the moist seeds above the safe range. Elevated temperature inside a moist container is the exact condition that accelerates bacterial growth and leads to sour batches. Keep all sprouting containers in a shaded area with good air circulation. A kitchen counter away from windows works perfectly. The sprout stage is specifically about root development and enzyme activation, neither of which requires any light input to occur. Save direct sun exposure for fodder trays growing past the sprout stage into actual green shoots over 5 to 7 days. Picture what this looks like 6 months from now, once a consistent rotation system is running, without much daily thought required. 3 or 4 jars sitting on the kitchen counter, each at a different stage, cycling through fresh batches automatically every day. Every single morning, a fresh batch of living enzyme-rich sprouts gets tossed to the flock as part of the normal daily routine. The feed bill has dropped 25 to 35% compared to before sprouting started. That savings compounds month after month. The egg count is up, and the production is more consistent through seasonal transitions that used to cause noticeable drops. Yolks are consistently deep orange, the kind of color that makes anyone who sees them ask what the hens are being fed. Feather condition has improved across the flock. Energy levels are visibly higher, and the general health of the birds is better. The vet has not been called in months, not because of luck, but because the nutritional foundation supporting immune function improved, no longer depending on what the feed store happens to have in stock or what price they decide to charge this particular season. A significant portion of the flock's daily nutrition is being grown from dried beans that store for years on any kitchen shelf. The beans cost almost nothing. The jars were already in the cabinet, and the water comes from the tap. The inputs are already there. That is what real self-sufficiency looks like in practice. Not a dramatic off-grid setup, but a jar of lentils rinsed twice a day. Drop a comment below and share which sprout from this list you are going to try first. Every comment gets read and responded to. If this video saved you money, or changed how you think about feeding your flock, hit subscribe and the bell to stay connected. Practical methods that actually work and actually save money are what this channel delivers every single week without fail. You do not need expensive supplements, specialty equipment, or a large piece of land to feed your flock real nutrition. A mason jar, cool water, and a bag of beans from the grocery store bulk section. Every tool required is already within reach. Start with lentils this week, add mung beans the week after, and build the rotation one sprout at a time from there. Your hens have been capable of producing far more than they currently are. The nutrition gap is the only thing standing between you. Start sprouting today and let the egg basket show you what your flock was always capable of delivering with the right food.